Evening, everyone. Welcome to the planning board meeting, March 23rd. This is Wednesday, 7 p.m. Present tonight, we have, well, not present tonight, Guy Horn, our chairman, he's on vacation. Daniel Edmondson, vice chair. Thomas Chinaki, clerk. Richard Clark, member. David Durgan, member. Our planner, William Scanlon, and Caitlin Warren, our clerk. First order of business, let's rise, say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have meeting minutes to approve. I just want to point out before we get to the approval process, I don't believe that Tu was here last month, was she? The last meeting? No.
I have these ones here for you guys, they're a clean copy.
Okay. And also then on the signature line, Steve's still on there.
I had edited that version. Did you?
Yeah, that's the edited version.
The one next to you, Dan.
Oh, okay, I see.
That I sent out.
Never mind.
All right.
Okay.
I stand corrected.
Help me with that. I still see him as on here. He was,
This one, the one that we just passed out, it's not double-sided. It's been corrected.
all right, there's another one. that's open on.
What's the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we accept the minutes as presented for the March 8, 2023 meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the March 8th meeting as submitted. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passed unanimous.
All right,
Get a
now,
couple signatures going.
I've got signature on this one, but I'm not too sure if this is the,
I think we gave Dan two new ones over there.
All right, so there's the first one. Signature there.
working on those two then. Okay.
There you go. Next order of business, A&R plans. We have one for 47 Mason Road, Mr. Wilfred Porth.
There's one copy.
So all the applicant is signing in. I'm just going to read is it okay if I read the purpose letter real quick?
Sure.
Purpose, the goal of the plan is to create a buildable lot from the existing parcels owned by Wilfred Porth while maintaining the existing house. This is achieved by first combining parcels 124 and 125 shown on the A&R plan of land. Once this is done, we will have the required footage and square footage to split the lot into Lot 1 and Lot 2 as shown. A utility easement is also being requested to accommodate the electrical, water, and sewer lines that are currently running to the existing house located on Lot 2 of the plan. So as far as I'm concerned, there's no waivers or anything else being,
Yes, that's correct.
no, so no waivers, signatures, all squared away, we have payment has been made,
Yep.
so all paperwork seems to
That's,
be,
plan off is complete.
yep, all complete. We
You
have
wanna
the
just
plans.
Talk about the plan for a second?
Sure, so essentially I have two parcels adjoining, one with 50 feet of frontage, the other one with just over 150. And we're looking just to combine them and break them apart to have a separate building lot available to me.
That triangular easement is gonna be, belong to Lot 1 then, right?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, if I may question for that. Is, number 47, are you residing at 47 presently?
I have a relative that's residing there, correct, today. Yeah, I personally reside in Charlotte.
One other question, if I may. Is, to the backside of that lot, I believe, unless things have changed, gets kind of wet back there, doesn't it?
It's,
I mean,
Further,
last year was
further
something
back.
of a drought
fur-
year, if you
yeah,
will, but.
Further back it is wet, yes. Yep.
But there's no wetlands back there, correct?
I'm not aware of any wetlands back there. There's a stone wall that where the property ends, and it's not wet at that point. It's behind that.
I don't see any wetland.
No, you don't see them on the
It usually says no wetland.
There's a note that says that on this
I
one.
think if we're talking about the area behind these two lots.
Behind the two lots,
Yeah.
it's,
It says area in wetland, 0 square feet.
Yeah.
So the thought then is that you're gonna build another residence on that lot?
correct.
So the only question I have is just about this easement. It's just a little odd to have an easement that's going basically in front of another house.
Right. Yeah, that was the only way to get the frontage for that lot.
Right. So it's being listed as a utility easement. Are there utilities that are gonna be running through there, or is that just?
The current utilities for one of the properties goes through there, for the house.
Two house, number 47?
Yes.
Thus the easement?
Yeah.
Okay, understood. So, I mean, Bill, it's an unusual geometry along the frontage, but it meets the requirements. Have you seen something like this? I mean, there's,
That's fine, it meets all setbacks.
Yep.
Meets frontage requirements, area.
yeah, we're out of this setback there, so the houses, there's no problem there.
Yeah, there's no setback from that corner, that easement. Violation.
Does the board have any questions? Or any further questions? Sergeant, any questions? If anybody wants to make a motion to accept the plan as A&R?
Make a motion to accept the A&R plan for 47 Mason Road.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second it, as presented.
I have a motion and a second, no further discussion, I'm assuming? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, good to go.
Thank you.
Just need some signatures now, right?
Wait
Bill?
a second, if you take the Mylar after it's signed. Somebody need 2 paper copies signed, and then the Mylar?
Somewhere in this collection. I can't quite fit my hands on it right now, to be honest with you. Another one. Blue week is sufficient, right?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
Blue oak on this?
On the Mylar, we need to use.
Yeah, the highlighter, but I think.
Yes. All set on the signatures?
Yep. So, Bill, we're a little bit early for the public hearing continuation, even though they asked for an extension. Do I still need to wait to 7:15 to read the extension?
No, you can do it.
All right. Well, I think I don't have a copy of,
Rolling right through this.
that's the idea.
Yep.
So take this to the registry of deeds. Okay. Very good. Okay. Thank you.
Wasn't there a letter asking for the extension?
It came via an email to me.
Okay, so do I have to read it, or is it just squared away just to mention that they requested and?
I think you could just mention that it's going to be
All right.
continued until the 12th.
12.
Yes.
So at 7:15, there's a continuation of the public hearing for the modification of a previously approved site plan at 3530 Chase Avenue. The applicant has requested an extension until next meeting, which is April 12th, right?
Yes,
April 12th. So we'll hold that again at 7:15
yes.
on the 12th? All right. That brings us to the next item of business, request for a one-year extension of Dudley Estate subdivision. That's you, gentlemen? Come on up. So I think we discussed this briefly last meeting when the letter came in. I think this has been extended a couple times already.
It has.
Yeah, and the last time it was extended, the board just simply mentioned that we'd like to talk to the applicant and find out, you know, what the plan is. So appreciate having you gentlemen here tonight.
No problem.
do you
Thanks
want
for
to-
having us. So we are in the process of purchasing the property. I guess the previous owner doesn't want to develop the area.
Yep.
And we're looking to purchase it, and it was expiring this month, and we requested that we need it to be extended before we can commit to purchasing the subdivision.
So if everything works out with the purchase, is the intent to start building pretty soon, or?
Yeah, the intent is we're gonna do it into two phases. Let's put it this way. The first phase, we're gonna run water and sewer along Jesse Road to tie it into the existing. And there is 3 lots over there. So we're gonna try to develop those 3 lots. And then when we're done, we're gonna start work on building the road and the construction on the subdivision, the 15 remaining houses.
Questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I may, you familiar with the plans that had been presented and approved by the planning board in the past?
Yes,
And
Do
you
we have a copy of that?
would be compliant with all of the conditions and?
absolutely.
If you want to say.
Because one of the things that we've done, or have been done recently, was the extension of sidewalks up Mason Road. And
Jesse Road.
part of what you're hoping to develop would connect to that. We'd have
Correct.
People not walking in the road any longer.
Absolutely.
So, you did approve the subdivision, I think in 2019?
Yeah.
17, was it?
It's around that, 17, 19.
And
that
so you've
before
continued it a
COVID.
couple of times, and so if you don't approve another extension, then they'd have to refile and start over again, which would essentially be the same plan.
Right.
So there's really no need to go through the whole review process since it's already been approved. I think the concern was, if there's nobody really interested in developing the property, then why bother to continue with the extensions? But since we do have
Right.
people who really seem committed to the project, it makes sense, I think, to continue, or to grant another extension for another 1-year period, to
Right.
give them time to get the project underway.
Well, you weren't on the board then, were you, Richard?
No, I wasn't, no.
Okay.
No,
And so I was the only one on the board that time. Are you guys familiar with the plan at all, or you think there's any questions?
not really.
Do you want me to-
I,
remember-
if, to the planner, what has
I
been
remember
approved to
everyone
date is the
complaining.
preliminary plan,
No.
No.
the definitive plan?
Yeah,
Yes.
definitive plan's been approved.
All right, I was reading through that chronology, which I can no longer locate in this file.
Oh, the waivers
I
and
didn't see
everything.
that indicated. but-
There were some waivers. I think there was an open space waiver. Ooh, I can't be, if I say anything now, I'll be mistaken, because it was a while back. I know we talked about open space. I think there were sidewalks on one side.
Yeah.
I know there was some extending the sidewalks along Jesse Road there, but they weren't going all the way. They were just extending to the extent of the subdivision. There's 3 houses along Jesse Road. The sidewalk was going through there. I think there was a waiver for the extent, the length of the dead end that the police and the fire were okay with. And I think that was.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, do we have that here, Bill?
No.
The waivers, no?
No, I can pull it up, though.
Okay. I'm not faulting your memory, I'm sure. it's
Oh, no, my
flawless,
memory's
but-
faulty. I'm admitting it's faulty.
Well, better yours than mine.
Would it be possible to get a 2-year extension? That way we're not here for next year. Just like there is some issue with we're gonna start it right away, but we've been calling for, because the water lines are going down, Jesse Road about 1,000 feet. water lines, and material might not be available right away, so might push back a little bit. I don't know if we do the 2 years, we should be good by then, but I don't know if you want us to do the 1 year and then go for another year extension next year, because with the delays with the supply chain and all that stuff, I don't know if we'll be able
Right.
to finish the whole thing.
The only concern I would have personally with the extension of 2 years is if what happens if for some reason the sale doesn't work out? And then then it would have essentially been extended then for what, 5 years or so overall? That would be the only concern. I don't know if we can make it conditional, can we make something like that a conditional upon the sale? If the
Say that
board.
again? I'm sorry?
So the request was possibly for a 2-year condition, a 2-year extension as opposed to one. And my concern would be, well, if for some reason the sale doesn't work out, then we just granted another 2 years, making the whole thing like a 5-year extension or something. Could we make a 2-year extension conditional on the sale, the
Sure,
approval of the
I think,
sale?
yeah.
If the board would be willing to consider that?
I thought we could only do it 1 year.
That's the point.
More than 1 year?
Right.
Normally, it's a 1-year extension, but it-
If I may,
1 year and I'm
Mr.
out.
Chairman, with regards to, I think as I understood this, what they were looking for is a 1-year request for a 1-year extension, according to at least the way the reading on the agenda is. So that is your request. The last extension runs out when? The end of this month, is it, Bill?
I think it's the end of May,
End of May.
yes.
I would, I know we're not voting at this point, but I would have no problem granting the request as they've made it here in the agenda for the 1-year extension. And I think we are somehow tied to the agenda.
The letter from the engineer did request a 1-year extension.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you could still do a 2-year if you felt that was.
Well, let me make
Well, it's
that in
up
the
to the
form of a
board.
motion, Mr. Chairman. I would propose that we grant the gentleman here their request for a 1-year extension of Dudley Estate subdivision.
All right, I have a motion to grant the request for a 1-year extension. Is there any discussion?
I'll give them a 1 year. I don't really, it's already been all.
Is that a second? Is that a second?
Yeah.
So just-
Not like a second.
If it's already been approved and everything's done, then,
Yeah, just that the applicant
yeah,
has
they just
made,
want an extension, so we'll give them a 1 year.
if 1 year goes through, will that
One.
work for you guys right now? I mean, we're basically easy to work with. I don't want to speak for
Right.
all of us, but
It's just like, we don't wanna get into it next year and then we run into issues, but if you're saying that, once we get the 1-year extension, and then most likely we're gonna be coming back for another extension, to be
yeah, I
realistic,
mean,
I'm not gonna be.
the reason that we asked you
Uh-huh.
here is just because of the lack of activity for the past years.
Absolutely.
And I think that if, speaking for myself, not for the whole board, seeing the activity,
Uh-huh.
if you gentlemen should come back at the end of a year, there's already activity, and the supply chain, whatever that happens to be, or knowing that there's orders, but there's just supply chain issues and you can't get what you're looking for, I think that's a very reasonable reason to grant an extension for that.
Right.
Uh,
It's just because it's a big commitment and we don't wanna get into the first part of it and then we gotta get to the 15-house subdivision and then we're not gonna have,
Yeah.
just
Well,
like,
once
just the
it's-
risk of.
once
Well,
it's
I would
underway.
ask you, Mr. Chairman, that we move the question.
Did we do what?
Move the question. We vote on it.
So we have a motion
Motion has
and a
been
second.
made and
You want-
seconded, and
Yeah, 1 year and then.
So I have a
Let's get
motion and
going,
a
good.
second to grant the 1 year, so all those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Opposed, no one? So that, the board's not willing to listen to the second year? We voted already, it's good to go? Is what I'm understanding?
Good to go.
He doesn't have to come in for the second year, next year, right?
Granted the request as
Excuse me?
presented.
He could just email you, right, for an extension, he doesn't even have to come in, we could just grant it without him being here, right?
Yes.
Next year, when he needs another one?
It's
If
up to
he
the
needs it.
board if you wanna have them come in and report. We've done that in the past, but normally if the work is underway,
Yeah.
there's no need to really,
Right.
we get reports on the activity of the subdivision anyway.
Correct. So, 1 year's been granted, and then, assuming that everything's underway, or there's progress, I don't see any issues with the second year.
All right,
Yeah.
that works. Thank you.
All right,
How
thank you
many,
for.
how many houses was it total, 18 or something?
18, yeah, 3 on Jesse Road and 15 in the subdivision.
Okay, 18 total, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did you sign in? So we
No.
have your contact information, please.
Yep. Thanks for stopping and visiting us too. All right, moving on. Item number 5, referral by the Board of Selectmen to the Planning Board for report and recommendation of the layout of Partridge Hill Road and acceptance as a public way. I think we just received the paperwork
Yeah.
a couple minutes ago on this.
All right, a couple of minutes ago. with
So-
something like this.
There you go. Yep.
So as you know, just to refresh your memory for those at home, the residents of Partridge Hill Road petitioned to have a betterment on their property so that the town could fix the last section of the road. Town meeting approved the betterment at the annual town meeting in May.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the work was completed over the summer, according to, the town requirements. It was overseen by the highway department. The survey for the as-built and acceptance plans has been done. So the project is now ready to move forward to town meeting for acceptance. The normal course of events is that the selectmen vote their intent to lay out the way and ask the planning board for a recommendation. The selectmen on Monday night made that vote, and we got some correspondence today from Michelle that was their vote. So, I guess the request to you is now two things. One is for you to support the acceptance of the way. And in order for you to do that, I've had the highway superintendent prepare Form I, which is the inspection checklist, to indicate that the road has been complete according to town standards. I also have done the Form J, which is the completion certificate for the subdivision itself, so that means you would then be signing off that the subdivision is completed. So I think, as far as I can tell, everything has been wrapped up. It's just going through the legal motions now to get it accepted by town meeting.
Is this for the back half of the road or the entire road?
It's for the end of the road.
End of the road.
The earlier sections have already been accepted.
Mr. Chairman, to the planner, Form R, you mentioned, Bill, I have a Form J.
Form J.
Is that the one that we
Form
have?
I is the inspection form.
Inspection, and do we have a copy of that?
Yes.
All right.
So we're in the binder.
Those are in the binders.
In the binder, oh.
Tab.
Section D, tab D.
Tab B, okay. So, tab B.
I have a clean Form J ready for you to sign.
Yep.
So.
Is it
on the
Form H,
second
right?
page is the actual portion of the road that would be accepted. It shows the layout of the roadway.
And this,
We look at the Form H now, am I correct in saying that?
right, I think so. Form H, tab G.
Yeah, okay, Form H, I'm sorry, is the inspection form.
And there are dates indicated here and initials, so that is the highway superintendent who is
Yes,
on those dates,
yes.
so that inspection.
So not all of the items are initialed with a date?
Yeah, no.
Yes,
ones
for
that
example,
aren't?
there were no sewers, so there was no inspection done for that.
So no sewers, no drainage,
No streetlights?
no water and utility installation,
Mhm.
no street signs, no street light?
No street trees.
There's trees up there.
Why would there not be a street sign?
Well, it's just a
Oh, it's just
continuation of the road.
Continuation, that's right,
Right,
thank
yeah.
you, thank you.
I know it's not part of the record, Mr. Chairman, but I did speak to the resident up there, and he is very happy with what has been done.
good to
One
hear.
person at least.
So Bill, what kind of a motion would you be looking for, or are we looking for on this one here?
Well, I think there'd be two motions.
Yep.
One is to favorably recommend to the selectmen that this section of the road be accepted as a public way. That's a part of the statutory requirement for accepting public ways. If you don't report, 45 days have to elapse before a town meeting can act. So if you recommend, we can continue with the process and go to the next step. If you don't approve, we have to wait 45 days before we can move ahead.
Okay.
So that's one vote. The second vote would be the Form J, which is the certificate of completion and release of municipal interest in subdivision performance security, which requires the board's signature on page 2. There's approximately $170, I think, less than $200 left in the escrow account for that project.
So the motion be that the planning board releases its interest in the performance security?
Yes.
As listed below?
Yes.
Okay.
And that you deem the project, the subdivision is complete.
Why didn't they use that security for the betterment?
Yes.
Yes, they did, or?
The project came in at about $67,000. So that would be apportioned among the 10 residents. And I think we could use this 100 and,
Okay.
it's a drop in the bucket, but it is something.
It's not going back to the guy that abandoned the
Right,
subdivision, is
yeah,
it?
that's the question.
That's my question.
Is it, I'm not sure I got clear understanding in terms of, so that money, whatever it is, that's relatively small amount, would be applied against
Yes.
the betterment fund?
Yes.
So the former principals are no longer rewarded for their lack of finishing something? Okay. All right, I'm not sure of the wording of that first motion, but,
Just that you favorably recommend that the way be accepted.
okay, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we favorably recommend acceptance of the Partridge Hill extension.
I have a motion to favorably recommend acceptance of the Partridge Hill Road. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Unanimous? All right, that's the first part.
Okay. Then, second motion would be to, help me again, please.
That you.
I want to make sure that with this,
Approve and sign Form J, certificate of completion and release of municipal interest in subdivision performance security, Partridge Hill Road, final phase.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we accept Form J as presented and signed accordingly.
I have a
Something to that.
motion to accept Form J, to release our interest in the matter, to recommend approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None?
How many copies?
Excellent.
We just need one.
Just
Oh,
one.
okay. Oh.
Just one copy signed here. We'll start again.
Oh, we got one working here.
All right, that's
How many copies do you have?
All right.
Which one do we want to work on?
Whoever's over there.
That one's over there, okay.
One, right?
We need one.
All right, trying to work through the paperwork. As we pass this around for signatures, we can start to move on towards standard business. Status report on the finishing the construction of, acceptance of, and uncompleted unaccepted subdivision streets, including Pierpont Estates, Rocky Hill Estates, Country View Estates, Tobin Farm Estates, Lyon Estates. Any updates, Bill?
Yes, we received site visit reports from Graves Engineering. One for Lions Estates and one for Legacy Landing, or it's now known as Country Club Estates. I don't know whether you had a chance to look at the reports yet. For the Lions Estates report, it's noted that the contractor was well underway with lot development. Multiple crews were working on lots 5, 15, and 16. During my site visit, I observed sediment accumulating in localized low points, most notably around catch basin 73. However, the site overall appeared to be recently swept, and lots 7 and 10 were showing additional signs of grass germination. It should be noted that the stormwater basin at the end of the cul-de-sac had standing water present and may need to be addressed at a later time. The basin bottom is compromised due to sediment accumulation.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I have an issue with regards to both of the site report visits that we have here. Noting regards to Lyons Estate, arrived on site at 3:30, left site 3:35. That's, by my calculation, all of 5 minutes.
It's called a drive-by.
Yeah,
No
pretty
doubt.
close to approximating the drive-by. I don't know that, okay, my expectation, I think, would be that it'd be a little longer than 5 minutes. Maybe they are extremely efficient and are able to do an awful lot or witness an awful lot in that 5-minute period. Again, moving on to the Legacy Landing, arrived on site at 3:40, left site 3:50. That's double, almost 10 minutes now. And I'll speak further to that one after I recuse myself, but I'm amazed.
I think it's a good observation. Lyons Estates is quite a long road. I think that you could probably drive it in 5 minutes, but if you wanted to actually see anything and kind of make observations, I would expect that you would need a little bit more time.
And we're dealing with slight snow cover, so there's some, hopefully that you're not driving through at an unreasonable rate of speed.
Well, not, they were doing like 3 foundations when I drove through there a couple days ago.
Has Graves gone and done a site visit for the DMA one?
In response to your email today, I asked Jeff when was the last time he was out there, so I haven't heard back from him yet, so.
There's the Jesse Road Estates.
Right now?
Oh, okay,
Extension that we
okay.
just granted for a year.
Yeah, I found the map in the book.
I guess, Mr. Chairman, planner, am I justified in my amazement in terms of the 5 minutes? Does that sound like we're getting our value out of that in 5 minutes? I mean, or am I being overly critical here?
Well, you know, they were out there witnessing the construction aspects of the road.
Right.
And in this visit, they were just looking at the condition of the site. So there hasn't been any work done on the road, it's just a question of has there been any erosion and sedimentation? Is the roadway being swept and maintained to prevent dust from blowing onto people's property? So that was sort of the intent of this. It is winter conditions. The ground is, well, it was probably frozen at this point in time. So I think the thought was that he could simply observe the condition of the roadway and the detention basin to see whether there were any problems. And he apparently didn't deem it worthwhile or necessary to get out and actually do a further closer inspection.
So just to kind of once again prove that my memory's faulty, didn't we vote a couple meetings ago to cede some sort of control or authority to the planner, to the building inspector for some of these items, the sediment, et cetera, et cetera? Or am I
Yes.
confused? We did.
Yes.
So following up on Mr. Clark's statement then, if the building inspector has
I believe it was the highway superintendent.
highway superintendent, then I think that we should be, especially if it's gonna be a 5-minute walkthrough or drive-through, why couldn't we do that with our own personnel as opposed to paying Graves, who's probably getting paid for the drive out, the drive back, as well as the time?
You know, I agree that I think we should be keeping a closer eye on these as well, because Graves doesn't come out on a regular basis.
Right.
Either when I make a request, or in this case, he said he happened to be in the area, so he drove by, but,
Well, that's a little bit different story if you happen to be in the area, but
Right.
still, I mean,
Still getting charged.
but I do think, you know, for these two projects in particular, they have been troublesome with erosion, and.
right, and I think that erosion is something that if the board is in agreement with, I'd like to bring up at the comments from the planning board section and have a little bit of a longer discussion on that, because there's a site on 72 Mason Road that is becoming a pigsty as well.
Saw that one.
Yeah,
It's a shared driveway.
I am not sure what it is, I just saw all kinds of mud and dirt
Oh,
on the
okay,
road.
I know, a little further.
So I was planning on bringing that up at planners, at the, comments from the
up.
board, so we could discuss it then, in a little bit more detail. It is something that I had brought up probably a good 3 years ago or so, maybe not quite so long, Bill, I'm not sure, is that, typically, an engineer working for a town entity it has some kind of a contract, and that contract runs for a couple of years, and then at the conclusion of that, there's a need to extend it or to, once and again, renew it. At that point in time, it seems to me that hourly rates would be discussed. And I don't know that, I'm assuming that Graves has raised their hourly rates in the past, how long they've been working for, 6 years, 10 years, whatever it happens to be. I've never had any kind of a conversation about them, being on the planning board now for almost 7 years, more or less. So, it's maybe something that we want to kind of revisit at some point in time, is talk about these kind of things.
I think that's a great idea, Mr. Chairman. I notice on the invoices presented here, there's a reference to 3.2 and 3.7. I'm not sure if the 3.7 is the March 8th Lions Estate, is that the?
Well, that's used for peer reviews.
Yeah, and
This
it
is the
indicated
case.
0.75 hours, so I guess we're being billed from the time they leave, wherever their location is, to the time they
No,
return.
we're not being invoiced for these site reports. This is
We're
for
not
the-
invoiced for these yet, okay.
Yes,
all
this
right.
is the Chase Mill.
I'm just looking at trying to match them up, and I guess the dates are not consistent, I apologize for that. I would also, if we're still discussing the site visit reports, I think Bill or Caitlin have been kind enough to provide some photographs, which I apologize for the amateurish photography. As you turn into that, you'll find on one page, there's material that has left the site, if you will, and is now on the church property proper. This is something that has happened in the past, and I do have photographs of that occasion as well. I thought because they moved the dumpster and it emptied it, that this might not be an issue any longer, but as you can see, as of this morning, it still is. And then there's the question in regards to that plastic sheeting barrier. Good luck if you can find it all. There's a good portion of it is under rock and dirt.
That's the silt fence.
And that we got 10 minutes on, and I think the observation was something to the effect that they found some large boulders there that were obstructing anyone's access to the property or something like that. Yeah, the area was relatively organized and boulders were placed near stations too. I would have thought that they would just kind of look a little beyond the windshield, and they might have found this pretty darn easily. I mean, it doesn't take a drone and aerial photography. There supposedly would have been that plastic barrier sheeting all along this area here, and it's just gone. I mean, I assume it's been buried. And what is there is moved on, I assume again, is probably onto the church property. I think indeed they're fortunate that the church abuts the property, and that religious orders being what they are, probably less inclined to complain than somebody who's a private citizen might.
A question, can we send our town highway superintendent down there with Graves every time he shows up to do a site review, and then he can give us his comments too? I think that would be the best way to do it, and let him take some pictures so he's got evidence, you know?
Right. I mean, if the board's in agreement, I'd like to bring this up again at the planner's plate.
Yeah.
Because I kind of wanted to bring it up as a bigger thing and kind of,
Now, all that said, we've got a report here, and we've got my amateurish photography, but what's the remediation here? How do we get that barrier reinstated?
we stop construction until he gets his erosion fence squared away.
All right, and that has to go through
Highway
what, building
department
inspector?
guy now, building inspector.
I mean, we can talk about it now. We've
No,
had
we can move
multiple
on.
sites in the town where there's erosion control problems, be it solar, be it construction project. I drive up and down, I had to drive up and down Mason Road a couple times to car issues, take my car to a mechanic, and I was driving past, I think it's 72 Mason Road, and there's a construction going on, there's a pretty steep asphalt driveway, kind of a drive going up towards to the hill a little bit, and then right at the top of that is just basically disturbed earth. There's no silt fence whatsoever. They have a earthen berm along one side of it, which is not an allowable silt fence. So I don't know whose, the site plan, you would think that we have some kind of purview over silt fences, over erosion control, which means in theory, we can shut these people down until they get their act together. And I would recommend a warning to the Lions, all the problem sites, recommend a warning, one warning, they get the stuff squared away or they get shut down.
Oh, I always did, you had to put the fence up, then you can cut down the trees and clear the lot.
Correct. That's what erosion control is.
Yeah.
Make sure you put, and
You
if
put
there's
your
any kind
fence
of.
up and then they let you clear the lot.
Right.
But I don't know who actually takes care of doing that inspection or in this town.
If we don't know who it does, and if it's in our jurisdiction, I would say that we try to find someone who'd do it, or one of us can get out there and.
It could be that there was a Conservation Commission order of conditions on that property which required them to maintain silt fences and control erosion.
Yeah, but silt fences and erosion control is standard for any construction site. It
Correct.
does not matter if it's next to wetlands or not, that's the first thing you do.
Yeah.
And
it
that
is.
they haven't done it whatsoever, and simply putting up a little earthen berm around the site is not an acceptable solution.
Right.
Right, there's hay bales, there's construction standards that have to be met, none of these sites are meeting any of them. So.
I agree, there's a problem that
Right.
we've had this repeatedly in some of these developments. We just haven't really done a good enough job maintaining.
So does the planning board have authority to send a letter to each one of the owners of these sites and to let them know that the next time we have either Graves or or Mr. Murray, go out there and witnesses something like this, that there we have the jurisdiction or the authority to shut them down?
Yeah.
I would recommend, if the board's in agreement,
Yeah,
If you need a
'cause
motion, I would, so move, Mr. Chairman.
I agree with Dan, because all we do is talk about this fucking every
And
other
they just keep doing what
meeting,
they're doing.
And it's the same thing.
and I think that if this is in our jurisdiction, that by taking this action, we are backing up the building inspector, the Department of Highway, whoever happens to be out there talking to these people, we're actually giving them some ammunition now. Or if it's
Yeah.
if it's Graves Engineering, we're giving them ammunition. Do we need a motion for this, Bill?
Yes.
I would so move, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Can I have the wording of the motion, please?
I think the motion is something to the effect that we would advise the property owners or the developers of these properties, I'm mentioning specifically Legacy Landing, Lions Estates, and
72 Mason
72 Mason Road, that there are things, conditions with regards to erosion that are not being addressed, and that should they not be addressed and promptly, we would consider further action.
Should we appoint the highway superintendent to go down there?
I think that we should
need
definitely,
to appoint somebody to go down there.
we should definitely alert the highway superintendent, let him know these letters are going out, and then we should request or ask him if he would go out there and make some kind of a random site visit at some point in time after the letters have been sent. I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
No.
So we have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion unanimous?
Did we, oh, no, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Horn's not with us this evening, so we don't have any updates on Eisenhower, right? That's still.
Correct. So as I know, that's not gonna happen this year. So,
I hate to say this, but I think I've heard those exact same words more than once.
I think so.
This is an
the-
ongoing saga.
What's missing with that one is just the as-built, right?
Yes.
Why can't we just take the money out of the escrow like we did with Tobin Farms?
Well, according to Guy,
Wasn't there a sewage pumps problem down there?
according to Guy Horn.
That was a big issue.
The applicant's engineer had done the survey work, but he hadn't actually produced the plan,
Didn't get
the
paid.
as-built plan. So it would be a simple matter for him
To do so.
to simply get his engineer to complete the work so that we could get the plans. There is a limited amount of money left in the escrow account. So the thought was that the applicant would do the pieces on his end to wrap up the plan, and the town would take whatever money's left in escrow and complete the sewage pump station.
Okay.
So that's kind of the informal proposal that we had made, but we never actually got anything back from the applicant to accept that and put it in writing.
If elaborate on that just a bit further. I know Bill has been after the applicant on a number of occasions and tried to communicate with through via a number of various devices, including return receipt requested and all that good stuff, and to little to no avail. Mr. Horn did seem to have some contact with this
Correct.
person, which gave us some hope that this could be resolved, but apparently that, he's done going turtle on us again.
Right. I mean, I think he goes to Florida in the wintertime,
Right, yeah, well,
so that could be part
Florida,
of it.
it's not that far away. I mean, you can send mail back and forth, and you can send emails and telephone calls and all that good stuff, still working, I suspect. Now, what is the condition of those pumps now? There should be two
The
good
pumps-
functional
I believe the
pumps.
pumps were replaced.
Yeah,
There's some interior work within the
right.
well, in terms
So-
of putting a lift in so that the pump can be elevated on some kind of a
But
lift system.
as far as the residents are concerned, there are two functioning pumps out there
Yes.
now, where at one point we didn't
One
have
of them
even that.
failed, I think, on like Christmas Eve or something, so the sewer department had to go out and fix them at that point in time.
I thought they put bigger pumps in and they updated electrical on that, I believe.
They've
They
done,
did- they've done a
they've
lot
done
of
a lot
that.
of that kind of work.
Well, at least there's that much on that anyway, that's good. Tobin Farms Estates, the betterment process at some point, we'll be looking
I
at that as we did Partridge Hill.
emailed Jeff Walsh today, he's putting together a bid document, so that will go out to bid, a couple weeks,
Okay.
I'm guessing. We'll get bids in and then get the work underway, late spring, early summer. We also had a discussion with St. Anthony Road residents. St. Anthony is off of Raymond Street.
That's right.
The short stretch of road. The residents there had petitioned to have a betterment. We had a meeting with them last week, gave them a cost estimate, and we're waiting to hear back from them whether they want us to go forward. If they do, there'll be an article on the town meeting warrant for
Right.
betterment for that street.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, when you say we, it obviously would involve you, Bill, and the highway superintendent,
And the town administrator.
and the town administrator,
Right.
okay. How many residents are,
8, I think.
Eight?
Eight properties, something like that.
thank you.
Okay.
Any word on the betterment for Paula Lane, Circle Drive? They started that like 2 years ago, never came to anything. Like the first ones that
I
signed
don't
up, I
have
think.
anything on that. They haven't actually petitioned to have it.
Yeah, they did, they had 51%, over 51%.
If they did, I never saw it.
No.
When
Yeah.
was that?
2019, I wanna say.
Really? Okay.
I have it all, I've got all the petitions, I can email it to
Okay,
you.
well, if they
case it
did,
got
then
lost.
we should, work on it, see what we can do. There's some issues there with ownership though, isn't there, in terms of
Yeah,
part of the road is privately owned.
yeah, the owner's petitioning the road, for the road to be fixed, he's one of the people.
Right, so there we have an actual owner who's responsible for the subdivision. These other streets, developer's gone.
Oh, he's gone too, he abandoned the road, the developer?
Yeah, that's where the town plows it.
Yeah.
For some reason they won't
2013,
plow
man.
mine.
I'm not familiar with that one, sorry, so I don't really know, but if you have some information, bring it up and we'll take a look at it.
Let's see what I got.
Is there paperwork for item number 3, the Nichols College Townhouse project?
I checked the registry again today, that 99 Center Road has not sold to the college.
Okay, so still nothing.
I don't know, I asked Mr. Levine today, but he didn't get back to me today, so I'll find out where we stand with that one and see what's going on.
Okay.
It's been a couple months now, no?
Yeah, it's been a few,
It's been a
Right.
while now.
just keeps going, some of these
It's
things
supposed to
just
be around Christmas or before Christmas, I
Yeah.
think.
seem to have, there's apparently no expiration date, no end date on these things, they just go on forever.
Any discussion of possible.
So the next item, continued discussion of the possible zoning amendments for the annual town meeting.
So, you should have the revised, is that in the binder, Caitlin? There were, at the last meeting, we talked about the amendment to site plan review threshold for parking lots. And the board asked me to prepare a definition of normal maintenance, which I couldn't really find a definition, so I put in some language that would sort of explain what we meant by normal maintenance, and I'm trying to find it now. Well, maybe what I'll do is pull it up on screen, this thing. So, as you may recall, when the Dudley Plaza came in, or did not come in after doing their parking lot over, we thought that perhaps they should have by the language of this zoning site plan review. So we talked about revising this section which says the construction or renovation of parking facilities involving 5 but fewer than 10, and we're striking out the word additional here, so that it would apply to any parking lot, with the exception of normal maintenance. And so this was what I've added for you to review, such as patching pavement, striping lines, repairing / cleaning drainage systems, pruning / replacing vegetation, traffic control measures, and other general upkeep of the lot. So is that adequate in your opinion of, so if somebody's doing that kind of work, they don't need to come into the planning board for a plan approval?
Right.
If it's more than this, then they would.
My only comment would be, instead of striping lines, restriping existing lines. That way, somebody has to get the idea, they can just start striping additional parking spots.
Okay.
Otherwise, I think it sounds real good.
I have to confess, Mr. Chairman, I'm still looking through my ream of paper here.
I don't think we have it in the,
It's not,
do we?
It was sent to you, I
Oh,
don't
it
know
is?
whether you.
It's an E.
Okay.
Tabby?
okay, my apologies. All right. Again, this article failed at the 2/3, but it did get a majority, as I recall.
Yes.
Okay.
So this would occur in both the minor and then in the major portion as well. So major site plan is 10 or more parking spaces. Minor is
No,
5 to 10.
Commercial, residential, there's no difference, just 10.
Yep.
So if I got an apartment building, I want to repave it, now I gotta put charging stations in for people that live there with no charging cars?
Yeah, and the rent goes up.
Huh?
No,
Yeah,
that's
and the
the
rent
next-
goes
The
up.
rent goes up. But the thing, you can
But,
plug it
yeah.
in and you can go to work the
The
next
charge-
day, as
the
opposed
charge-
to getting in line at the
I can-
library for one of the 3 or 4 stations that might be there because there's no place else.
So the
I
next
can Plug
article,
my daughter's power wheel in.
the next article is involving the charging stations. So this says, for every new parking lot, so we've clarified that it's only new parking lots,
Right.
containing 20 or more parking spaces, there shall be provided 1 electric vehicle charging station for each multiple of 20 spaces in accordance with the following: 20 to 39.1, 40 to 59.2, 60 to 79.3, 80 to 99.4, and 100 or more, 5. And then the note is, the fall town meeting article stated for every new or renovated parking lot. This version excludes parking lot renovations. Could also specify meeting at least a level 2 standard for the charging stations. But I'm not sure that's really necessary if somebody's putting in a charging station. We could let them do either 2 or 3, depending on what they felt was appropriate. Level 3 charging stations are pretty expensive.
Well, it depends on what phase they have at the power line in front of their building.
Was there provision for charging stations at the Stevens site?
Nope.
I don't think we had it.
There was not a provision, but I think they had 1 shown on their site plan.
One.
How did this come up? Charging stations?
Hey, I brought it up.
So my only comment would be, why are we pushing this? Why not just wait till Tesla installs them up every place?
You know, you buy a car and they usually put them in. I don't understand why we're making people put them in.
Because they're becoming more common, and people are driving these vehicles around without a place to charge them up. So this would give them an opportunity to charge the vehicle while they're in doing business at a local provider.
I don't see
Okay,
that
and a
many.
resale of a vehicle, is Tesla gonna put in a charging station for the second owner?
Most people that buy one electric vehicle don't buy a second electric vehicle. Just to let you know, Mr. Clark. First
There
and
will
last,
be,
hey.
there will be a market for, and there will be.
I don't like pushing this on anyone. I voted it down last time. You guys brought it up, and I'm gonna do it again.
So now that it's gonna be, just assume it passes and it's a bylaw.
How are you
And
gonna
is this
enforce it?
something that we could waive? Or would this be something that would be,
No, you'd be looking for it on the site plans, and you'd, make sure that it was included.
There are other communities that have similar bylaws.
The
So
new
we're
stretch
not
code.
alone, we're not creating anything out of whole cloth.
Mhm.
Matter of fact, we're a little late in the game, quite honestly.
Most people that have these cars, they'll park them in their garage, plug them in, drive to work, come home, plug them in.
or they force their employers?
You know, or they plug them in at work.
Right.
As these become more common, and as you know, the state policy is
Right.
promoting
I don't-
more
I don't
electric vehicles.
I don't see you're gonna go to Cumbies, plug your car in for 2 seconds, run and grab
No,
coffee
no,
and
no.
leave.
Not
Or you're gonna
like-
go to the grocery store and you're gonna run in for 5 seconds and plug your car in.
Well, if you go in a market basket and the length of time it gets you through there, you might get the thing charged.
Don't go to Market Basket.
Okay. Offering an opportunity, that's all.
Yeah, I don't really have a comment as far as the electrical stuff is concerned. I mean, I'm kind of more on the idea that if the Commonwealth wants to do away with gasoline engines by 2035 or 2035, just like California is, then at 2035, we can address it personally. That's how I feel.
Yeah, me too.
But
I think we're jumping in the game too quick here. Cause now I've seen Caterpillar's coming out with graphite batteries instead of lithium. Even the hand tools, Milwaukee's changing to graphite batteries instead of lithium.
Well, gentlemen, I guess as the instigator of this thing, I would suggest that we drop the issue. Because it sounds like that, if it doesn't have support from this board, I see very little
Well,
chance
I just
of
don't
it
like
passing at
enforcing
town
it.
meeting.
Can
I
we-
mean, we're gonna go in and recommend not passing, and we're gonna propose something, and then our recommendation will be not to pass.
Mhm.
That doesn't make a whole lot of
No.
sense.
is it possible to wait until Mr. Horn is here and if we have a full board and discuss quickly again, or?
Well, yeah, so what we need to do is set a public hearing date,
That's no problem with me.
and at the public hearing, you could have testimony, of course, and then you could make a decision whether to support it or not, or whether to include it in the warrant, and if you decided not to have it included, then it would die at that point. So you, I mean, you could make the call tonight, as Richard was suggesting, or you could wait and
I
see
mean,
what
I
the-
wouldn't have a big problem with holding a public hearing. I mean, if we get 20 people in here and they're all strongly for it, then I would be more than happy to support it then. But, I mean, my personal opinion, it just doesn't hurt to ask, right?
Mr. Chairman, the likelihood of our getting 20 people in here in support, or unanimously, as a group in support of anything,
Could we get 3 or 4?
that would be an achievement worthy of recognition, certainly. Gold medal.
What happens if those 3 and 4 say no?
Well, then at least we've let the public speak on it. I mean, that's how I personally feel.
Well-
Dave, your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't like forcing it on people, but, yeah, like you said, if we're gonna have a public hearing, get the public's opinion of it first. Because I know there was a lot of outcry at that meeting. People asking questions, like, if you could do the what was it?
Nonprofits.
Yeah, nonprofit one.
But again, I would submit that it did reach a majority. It did fail at the 2/3, what was it, 58% or something like that?
It was close, I forget the exact number.
Yeah, I have a minor issue too with, you go to a public meeting and then every time that you go there, the same issue is being voted on. It's getting voted down constantly.
Yeah,
So
I
at
thought it
some-
was supposed to be every 2 years.
At
you
some
brought it
point in
back.
time, you'd like to say, hey, we just voted on this last time.
Yeah.
You know, back burner it.
Yeah.
The
But-
criteria is that if the planning board recommends adoption, it can come back within 2 years.
Yep.
And since you had recommended favorably, you can bring this back this year if you wanted to.
So, I mean, I would like to hear a motion to hold a public hearing on this, get some input.
I'll make a
and then
motion to hold
move
a
after
public
that.
hearing on it.
Second.
I have a
Let's
motion
call
and a
it that.
second. All those in favor? Opposed?
Okay.
Passed.
What's on that?
So the third one is the shared driveway standards, which I have not changed. This is the exact language that was submitted last year. But this one got 58%.
How much?
58%.
58%.
There was a split opinion among the planning board last year on this article, which might have had, some effect at town meeting. So this does establish new requirements for shared driveways.
This is because we don't have standards now, correct?
So currently, the bylaw allows 2 lots to share a driveway. More than 2 lots requires ZBA approval as a special permit. So this would establish standards for all driveways, so 2 or more lots sharing a driveway would have to conform to these standards.
Could they get stuff waived from the ZBA, or do they have to come to us to get any of these things waived? Like if they have to go before the ZBA anyway for the 3 or more?
I suppose in order to make that clear, I'd have to add something which would give them the authority to waive them if they thought it would be appropriate. Otherwise, it'd be hard for them to just arbitrarily say, we're gonna waive everything or something. I don't know.
So this is something the planning board would not be voting on, shared driveway.
Only in this, right, you would not see these applications.
Yeah, it's true. It only goes to the building inspector, and then if 3 or more would go to the ZBA, we wouldn't even see it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
How can we get it so that we do see them?
Could write it in. Could make it a site plan approval process if you wanted to review those plans. I could modify this, accordingly.
I can't read it all from here, just goes my eyes. Is there a stipulation in there as to a maximum? How many houses can
No.
no. So I start to have issues with some of this thing that what's the difference between a shared driveway and a private way?
Right.
What standards are there? When do we start talking about sidewalks? When do we start talking about other matters is this more of a loophole, or is this actually, and to give, to have input on it here and then to turn it over to another entity and have them make decisions on it? I'm not sure if
Well, I
I'm comfortable with
believe-
that.
After 2 driveways, 18-foot driveway, you still have to do drainage. I'll have to look that up for you, Dan. There is a drainage thing after, I think, 2 or 3 houses, you still have to make a drainage spot.
They would still need the frontage too, anyway, right?
You still have to have required
And how
frontage.
about the upper lands, upland,
Mhm.
and
Right,
all that, the square footage?
sure, all that would still
lot.
apply.
Cause now you're gonna look at, hey, half this is wetland, I'm gonna put 2 houses here.
This is another one where we're looking for, hold a public hearing on?
Yes.
I honestly haven't read through all this, unfortunately. I'm not sure how much this has my personal support right now. I'm not sure how the rest of the board feels.
It didn't have my support the last time, so it ain't gonna have it this time. When I started looking it up, I was like, there's a lot of
mean-
loopholes there.
Well, it could be up to us to close those loopholes.
Yeah, I
To
know,
discuss those
but-
loopholes, to close it, to make it how it sounds right. It just,
I do think you raised an interesting question, Mr. Chairman. If we're talking about a shared driveway and we're talking about a private road, where are the lines? I think right now that they're kind of ambiguous.
Once you're on the private road, you can
What's
do
that?
whatever you want on your own private road.
Well,
All
yeah,
they're really
but,
giving you is the right of way.
Where does one begin and where does the other end? It sounds like that you could call this thing if Mr. Wetruba were so inclined, call it an extended driveway, or a
Yeah.
shared driveway.
Yeah, well, he can do that because it's private road, so he owns the road frontage.
Right.
All he needs
but
is a
then-
right away
and then-
from
And then
us.
effectively, we said,
4 houses
Do what
turned
you
into
want.
8.
So again, I'm asking whether you wanna go forward with this, or do you wanna, hold,
So we could
advertise
hold a
it?
public hearing, for example, and then it would give all of us, or at least me, time to look into it a little more detail, and then to, after hearing public input, start to decide if we'd have to write it first, though, wouldn't be before the public input, right?
right.
We couldn't really amend it after we had that public hearing, correct?
You can amend it.
You can.
Yes.
When we get those 20 people in here and they speak to this, we'll have a better
So,
feeling for what the public wants.
We could have the public hearing at the second meeting in April. And then the town meeting would be a couple weeks after that, so it doesn't give us a lot of time
Yeah.
to get things into the warrant, et cetera, et cetera.
But it would give us a month to read it, to start doing some research.
Yes.
And we could even discuss it briefly at next meeting amongst ourselves about how we think that we should word everything.
Right.
What is the cutoff date? Do we have a cutoff?
I
date?
haven't found out when the warrant, I can get these into the warrant.
Yeah.
What's the cutoff date for the public hearing, for you to get it in? Couldn't do it, we couldn't wait till next meeting to do this, right? To make
I
it pub-
need a vote to include it for
weeks.
public hearing purposes tonight.
Yeah, okay.
What's the board's pleasure?
Make a motion to add this to the public hearing as well.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous?
Okay?
Somebody
So,
shows.
I have a new one for you.
A new one,
Oh, the-
all right.
The BESS?
Yes, the battery energy storage.
Oh, yes.
I had sent this to you, before the meeting, last week, I believe. You have a paper copy of it tonight. So as you can see, it's a fairly long one. It runs, 6 pages or so. These are the, storage, battery systems that you see in sort of containers. They occupy maybe an acre or so of land, and they allow storage of power when energy can be produced directly, from a solar farm, or when it can be accessed at a time of low demand and then released into the grid at a time of high demand. So it helps to even out the peaks. And so therefore, it reduces energy costs by having these battery systems available during times of high demand. So the way that this would be structured is that it would be a site plan approval by the planning board. It would be allowed in industrial districts, that's industrial 43 and 130, and light industrial 43 and 87, and also in the town refuse disposal district, which currently allows solar systems. So then there are some definitions, and then there's 316.04 requirements for all systems. It's gotta comply with the laws and ordinances and regulations. There's building permit and electrical permit required. Requires major site plan review, and sets forth the information that's required to be submitted as part of the plan. Requires control of the site, notification to the utilities that this is going forward. It has design standards for setbacks from property lines, basically 50 feet from front side and rear yards. Standard on land clearing and grading to prevent erosion and loss of habitat. Limit on vegetation and tree cutting. Standard on lighting.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, through the planner out there, is conservation figured into this somewhere?
Not in this particular bylaw, but if there's a notice of intent required, then they would have
to go through
jurisdiction over,
Okay.
the wetland, the normal wetland jurisdiction. And then there's standards on signs and utility connections, that the utility lines be underground to the extent feasible. A limit on noise generation at the property line, conformance to various electrical codes. that there'd be monitoring and maintenance conditions imposed on these projects, and that when it's time to discontinue, there would be a decommissioning plan that would be in place with requirements for how the site would be cleaned up and removed, and that there'd be a financial surety in place to cover the cost should the applicant no longer be around. So it parallels in many ways the solar energy bylaw that we already have, but this is specific to these battery systems. I've had a number of calls from folks who are interested in putting these in town. The thought is by allowing them in industrial districts, it makes good use of some of our available industrial land that doesn't have water and sewer, for example. You can still get a viable use of that property, provided there's access to three-phase power.
What's the town's kickback on that?
Excuse me?
Does the town make anything once this goes in? Like if they put a commercial building up, we make revenue off of it. Would we our revenue off of something like this?
I've been meaning to talk to the assessor as to how that would be assessed. For the solar systems, we do tax agreements, and it's per megawatt payment to the town. I'm not sure whether this would be handled the same way, or if it would be considered more taxable property and taxed as permanent improvements.
Is there anything to this effect from the state in terms of Mass General Law at all, or is this strictly being handled locally?
I forwarded this draft into the Department of Energy Resources and got a response back that the state does not have a model bylaw for this kind of thing yet.
Okay. So it's on the communities individually if
Yes.
something is going to be enacted.
They did refer me to New York State, which has a model bylaw, and I took information from that bylaw, put it into this one.
So if the state does come up with a regulation, we may have to change it anyway?
Yeah.
No, the
Well, it
state
would be a model
supersede.
bylaw.
That's what I'm saying, we would have to
Yeah,
change
I
our
don't,
bylaw.
well, whatever we'd have, the state would take precedence. And
Yeah, they
this
would
would
have
be
their own
the
code
secondary.
Yeah, and then we'd have to come back here and change our bylaw
Well,
to fix,
it
to
wouldn't
go
be,
along with the
it
state.
would be required, but
It wouldn't be
you could,
required to,
you
but
could
yeah.
see if they had anything worthwhile that you'd wanna amend. So this would, in a way, it's kind of an economic development tool to give the town an opportunity to make some additional revenue, as well as sort of reducing greenhouse gas emissions and helping meet the state's energy needs.
I don't have a problem with it.
Can I hear that? What was that again?
Yeah.
You don't have a problem with that?
No.
Okay, Mr. Shinakis on record, all right.
Battery storage.
And I agree with Mr. Shinaki in this issue,
No.
we don't have a problem with that.
Nelson or Neil or nobody has any comments on this from like the building department or their
I haven't sent it
departments
out
on
yet.
that?
Tom, I haven't sent anyone else yet, you're the first
I'm the
board that's
first
seen it,
one.
so I will do
Because
that.
maybe Neil would be like, hey, I wanna add a couple things here as electrical
Sure.
inspector.
I think, Mr. Chairman, it might be advisable that we add this to the public hearing.
Yeah, this is kind of a little bit over my head.
Yeah, me too.
I was reading through this and without having any idea what the technology is about, or how prevalent these things are, or anything else, it's kind
Not
of like,
even
it's
seeing
in a
one
vacuum right now
everywhere.
for me. I mean, hats off to you, Bill, for doing the research, making the phone calls and putting this together. I think that this kind of almost came out of nothing, so I think that's very good.
Yeah.
And I'm open to the board's suggestions, recommendations here.
Honestly, I've never seen one of these inside, so I don't even know what it looks like.
I'm sure that once I have time to start thinking about it, there's about 1,000 questions that would come up.
Yeah.
The revenue one is an excellent point. Why would we want someone to come in here and rip down woods and soils, and if it's just gonna be making revenue for them, if it's not gonna help the residents of the town at all? That's an excellent question. Knowing that it's only gonna be in certain areas where there's away from residents seems to make a lot of sense. I'm always concerned about the decommissioning on any of these things, solar fields or anything solar related, who's gonna stop them from walking away? But I think if the boards wants to put it on the town meeting, I think we could get 30 people as opposed to just 20, giving us input now with this on there as well.
Mr. Chairman, I have actually here a communication from Tim, somebody whose name I can't pronounce and won't even attempt. who describes himself as a town of Charlton Solar Committee, a chairperson for, and he makes reference to, his comment is, I urge all planning boards to read this best practices in the photovoltaic system performance period, and I assume that there's some indication in terms of what batteries are. And he has an email address that I would bring you to a document, it's about 18 pages, I think, in length.
Right.
Maybe we could make some copies of that, and I think it will address some of our concerns in terms of the materials, because he does get in here, the DEP does not list solar panels on its 2030 or 2050 solid waste master plan. It is politically a hands-off topic, hence when it goes on. And it talks about changing hazardous chemicals like cadmium, gallium, arsenide, excuse me for the pronunciations
I
here.
thought that's-
Could
those
take
are
the
the
glass
solar-
sandwiches and all this other stuff.
That was
so.
the-
Was
solar
that town
panels.
of Charlton?
Yeah, well, that's where he's associated with. He's
Yeah, he was
got
right.
making reference to this thing called, let's see how fast it comes up. Best practices at the end of a photovoltaic system performance period. And this is, I guess, a national publication, NREL, whoever they happen to be.
I
Well,
can
maybe we
pass
could
that
make
around.
copies of that
Sure.
available.
Okay.
How many other town bylaws for batteries?
I'm sorry?
Are there any other towns that have a master plan for batteries and solars?
I suspect there probably are.
Oxford has a battery storage bylaw.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a lot of this stuff, we don't really have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, I know.
Just cut and paste or
Well,
steal, if you will.
Yeah, as
plagiarize.
far as the bylaw itself is concerned, you're right, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, but I mean, without knowing anything about this, my first question would be, are we ahead of the curve and innovators for having this as part of our bylaw, or are we fools for allowing it to be part of our bylaw? I don't know the answer to that question right now.
We did approve one as part of the landfill solar project.
Right.
There was a battery component.
Indian
to that.
Road.
Pardon?
Indian Road, the
Yes,
old
correct.
decommissioned landfill.
Yes.
And,
So to answer your question, Dan,
Yep.
there seem to be a number of these that are being sponsored recently, so I've seen an uptick in these kinds of things.
Yep. It's the board's pleasure.
I
Open meeting?
submit that we.
Public meeting?
Public meeting, yeah. See what the public has to say. We may have someone who's, this gentleman is from Charlton, not that far away. God knows, he may even show up in terms of bringing his knowledge.
And we'll
with
have
him.
31.
That would be interesting.
To get a motion?
I do make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we include this in the public hearing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All
Okay.
those in favor?
Aye.
I'm gonna vote against just for the hell of it this time.
All
Sure.
right.
An indication of your contrary nature, Mr. Chairman.
No, I know I'm behind the times, but I don't like the solar panels, and I don't like solar farms, and this kind of, but that being said, I'm admitting the ignorance to the whole entire issue. I just don't know that much about it, so.
Yeah, I don't know nothing about them.
Aye.
So I'll schedule the public hearing for the 26th.
Okay.
Can we, add something too?
Pardon?
Can we add something else? Another change to the bylaw? I was thinking of adding, the use for a dispensary for 43 resident, 43 industrial. You know, because right now it's only in 143.
Mm-hmm.
If we're getting these guys are making 500 for the DMA.
Well, the issue is, the bylaw allows 2 dispensaries in town,
Right.
and we've got one at the Chase Mill, and we know there's one coming on Hall Road.
Do they already have a permit for that?
I believe they have their provisional license from the CCC.
No, they don't.
Yeah, I didn't see
I think
anything
they
on
might.
Hall Road.
CCC.
I'm not
they don't
quite
have
swear to
anything
it, but I know they've at least filed, and I thought they had their provisional. So that would be the 2. I know they have a host community agreement with the town for that site.
I thought they only had the host community for the other site, the
Fish Road.
greenhouse.
Yeah, Fish Road.
Yeah.
I didn't- I
believe
didn't
there's
see anything
I
on
believe
Hall
there's a
Road.
host community agreement, but,
Not on the website anyway.
okay, I'll check.
I've asked John, he doesn't answer me anymore.
Those go back some time on the issue in terms of Hall Road. Is there any recent activity on that, Bill?
Yes, they've been negotiating to get some additional parking spaces from the
Yeah,
industry
universal
next
tag.
door. Universal tag, correct.
How long before they need an extension from us?
Oh, they haven't submitted anything yet,
Okay.
but they're getting close. I would suspect in the spring they'll be before us. with an application.
So that license goes through the selectmen first, and then they come here for a special permit for those?
They've got, I think that they need to have a provisional license from the Cannabis Control Commission
Right.
and a host community agreement
Okay.
before they can file with us.
Yeah, I didn't see their one for Hall anyway. I saw the one for Fish Road, the host community agreement.
Right.
And the license.
I'll
I didn't
find
see the
out.
license for that.
Well,
either.
the Fish Road, as I understand it, was strictly a grow facility. The Hall Road was supposed to be a retail establishment, as I understand.
Correct.
Okay, so that's
So that would be the second and last
Yeah.
retail.
interesting location.
It's right next
That
to the
was limited-
courthouse.
Ah, yes, you noticed
Yeah,
that.
friggin' walk right next door.
That was because it was zoned industrial 130,
Yeah.
which is the only district.
There
Plus
isn't much in the way of an
the
option
mill
there.
overlay districts.
Yeah.
Okay, move along to sorry.
Go ahead, no, you're-
Move along to planner's plate.
The open space forum is tomorrow night at the library, beginning at 6 o'clock. The public is invited to attend and express their views about their desires and wants for open space and recreation opportunities in the town. We have a very good open space committee who's been working hard on the open space plan. And they're all interested in hearing what the public has to say about, what they want. So that'll provide some valuable input in how the action plan is developed as part of that plan. The other piece is the Water and Sewer Commission has asked to have a peer review done of the infrastructure surrounding the Chase Mill.
Mhm.
And they've asked Ty and Bond to submit a proposal to analyze the water mains and sewer mains in that area. They have a proposal for $4,000 to do that. I sent that to the applicant for his agreement to pay that fee. The Water and Sewer Commission is meeting April 5th with the applicant to discuss those needs, and then they will be coming back to us on the 12th for continuation of the public hearing on the site plan. So hopefully they will have their issues worked out with the water and sewer folks. The fire department is fine with the hydrant placement around that property. So it's just a question of working out, what kind of improvements are needed to the water mains and sewer mains in the area that serves the mill. So that's it for planner's plate.
Now your open space and recreational thing, we waive open space, right? So, should we now waive open space, or is that something?
I'm not sure what your question is, but I would submit that there's, to go along with Bill's thought earlier, there's, I think, a good deal of information that will be available to you tomorrow
Yeah.
evening. And some of it, I suspect, will surprise people, because although you have an awareness of some things in town, this is pretty comprehensive, and it takes into account all of, if you will, Dudley.
Is it kid-friendly?
That's right?
Is it kid-friendly? Can you bring your kids?
Yeah, sure, bring your kids. What about a raffle?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, game of chance. I mean, the closest thing to a casino
have,
Dudley will have in the county.
Blue Sox tickets for
Yeah,
raffle.
oh, yeah. And there'll be some,
Right?
you might have to get there early. There's some provision for refreshments too, so if you pass the dessert at dinner time, you might have an option available to you, so. Spread the word. The library is a great facility, and it's a wonderful opportunity to get people in the library and familiar with it, at
So
least.
if there's
anyway.
more than 3
And we
hours
do
of
have
fun.
electric charging stations
we'll
outside
plug
of the
my truck
library.
in.
So bring your EV vehicle, and you're always ready to get home.
Can I put my marine battery on one of those?
I don't think so. Well, I don't know. You could try. You could try. Any damage will be responsible.
Any further comments from the planning board?
No.
Back to DMA, did they accept, or did they say they're gonna pay for that $4,000?
Waiting for their responses.
Still waiting for that? Okay. So we wouldn't have that for the next meeting then, right? Because they're gonna meet with the water commissioners at the 4th?
Well, the water and sewer issues are really the Water and Sewer Commission's area of expertise. The site plan approval process provides this opportunity for them to work out those issues.
Yeah, but if he pays for it, then they're gonna do, Graves is gonna do it, whoever's gonna do it, we're gonna have to wait for their report before we go on.
No, we have Graves peer review on the site plan, so that's
Oh,
already
Yeah,
been
but what
done.
happens if Ty and Bond does their investigation or whatever, we're gonna wait for their report?
Well, I think, yes, I think out of courtesy to the Water and Sewer Commission, we want those issues to be resolved.
So.
So I think the Water and Sewer
the
would like to
April-
have that in hand before they meet with them, I would
Yes,
assume. right?
yes, and if
Well,
it's,
before they meet, before they come back to us, I hope we would know what's going on.
Well,
That does.
that'll be April 5th, we don't meet until the 12th, so
12, right?
we can
Yeah.
either attend the meeting or we could video the thing.
Right.
I did happen to go on the backside of that property, and I'm not sure what the wording was, but I think in the master plan for 2000, it refers to the Chase Mill as a typical Rhode Island-style mill, I guess indicating some historic significance to it. And I know the people over here at Stevens have had to deal with the parks, national parks and recreation, I'm not sure what their title
National
is.
Park Service, yeah.
In terms of maintaining some historical integrity as far as that building is concerned. It looked like the backside of that building, and there are multiple buildings on the location, but the oldest building, if you will, looked like the back part of it had been pretty much carved up. I don't know whether they were being restricted or should have been or could have been restricted at all by the Parks Commission or at the
Well,
national-
the Parks Commission is involved for buildings on the National Register.
Okay,
And
and
this is not.
Stevens is on the National
Stevens
Register?
is on the National Register.
I thought the only thing in town was the Black Tavern.
No, Stevens is on as well.
Okay, so the Chase Mill didn't make it.
How is the Chase Mill not on there?
It's a lengthy process to apply.
Yeah, somebody has to
It's a
take
lot
the
of work.
initiative to start it
Right,
off.
yes,
and,
exactly.
Cause I seen the pictures too, that thing looked ripped apart, like nobody cared.
Yeah, it's supposed to be
Yeah,
gravel.
and
That's
I was
what
gonna
that guy
ask you,
was
Bill,
saying.
can you get permission so I can take a walk on the back of that property? Just
There
tell the guy.
are, they've got a couple of cones that limit access to it.
Yeah, they have a fence around
Yeah,
it.
you know.
I think
If you wanted to take do a site visit.
Yeah, I'd like to go see it in
If the
person.
board wanted to, I would arrange that.
Yeah,
we could
they
do
let
it.
their security guard let us in with our badges.
Well, I think we do it as a.
Well, I don't have a badge.
As a
Huh?
board.
I don't have a
Oh,
badge.
you don't have a
We'll
badge?
get you one.
Have a badge yet?
I'm badgeless.
That's a minor detail to be taken care of.
I mean, does the board want to do it as a board to?
Yeah.
Looks
I'd
like
like-
out.
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
It looks
Okay,
like a
maybe
pile
cool.
of rubble and everything back there.
Looks like Lou Perrin's house from the tornado, when they took it down, it was just a pile of rubble.
I think that'd be a great idea.
Yeah.
As we've noted in the past, there's Building 6, there's a number of different buildings floating, or a lot of moving parts, it seems, down
Yep.
there.
What's a good time for folks? Is it like right around evening time?
Need daylight.
Sunday, Saturday, it don't matter to me.
Yeah, weekend might be better, cause
A weekend type deal?
Yeah, it shouldn't take too long.
Okay.
I mean,
Shoot me a text, I can be there in 2 minutes, you know. It's up to you two. Durgan over there don't do nothing.
Okay, I'll make that request.
all right, thank you.
Okay.
Comments from the audience? Hearing none?
Mr. Chairman, I would, if it's appropriate at this time, I would move that we adjourn next meeting.
We have a
being
voucher, don't we?
Not quite
Oh,
there yet.
vouchers, yes.
Yep, okay.
Yes, we have.
Pay the bills.
We
Pay
did
the
get a
bills.
voucher from Graves, as you pointed out earlier, Richard, for $468.50.
I had it.
Follow-up peer review for the Chase Mill
Oh,
project.
Lord, okay, all right, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we pay the invoice dated invoice number 38090, amount stipulated as $254, $95.25, $119.25, for a total of $468.50.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimous.
All right, now, if it's in order, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we
So
adjourn.
we got the next meeting date, April 12th at 7?
12th of, yep.
Yep. We're all okay with that?
You don't need to do anything for this flood thing?
Yeah,
I
there's
was
a,
gonna mention that, we did get a letter from FEMA regarding the floodplain
Oh,
maps.
yes, we did.
You may recall, I brought that to the last meeting, and showed you that those maps have been revised.
so there's no action, this is just a follow-up.
It's just a notice.
Okay.
We do have the amendments to the floodplain overlay district, which will be part of the public hearing for the zoning changes.
All right, that has to go before the town meeting as
It
well.
does. and the new map will become effective on June 23rd.
We can't really turn that down, can we, at town meeting?
You really cannot, I mean,
I was gonna wonder that too.
what would happen is the town residents would not be able to get subsidized flood insurance.
No, we don't want that to happen. Okay.
It can be turned down, right?
What's that?
It can be turned down if everyone votes no.
Absolutely,
That's what I was.
but there are
wondering.
consequences, you know, so.
We also have a certificate of approval for the Sawmill Acres preliminary subdivision plan. Do we need action on that at all, or is this just for the record?
No, just for the record, if you had comments, certainly, but,
My comment was, I thought it captured things that were spoken about very good, very accurately.
okay.
Yep. Some of the items are more feelings that were in the room.
Right.
Yeah, I think this
Right.
did a good job.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
Now,
we vote the motion?
You want to make a motion?
I think I did.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
All right, good night, gentlemen.
Thank you.